Hello, I'm Robert, a voluntary fact checker and helping you if you're scared of many things. And this is about this story that the Hormuz Strait is blocked and that the United States, along with other countries, is releasing a very large amount of oil from their oil reserves to cover this blockage. And first of all, for those of you who are worried about gasoline prices in the United States, don't worry about it, because that is the very reason they're releasing this, is to keep the gas prices down. And the other thing is, there's plenty of gasoline in the oil reserves. There's enough for 120 days of blockage of the Hormuz Strait. Now, just until very recently, they weren't going to do that. They were planning to escort vessels through the straits, and they were planning to just forcefully keep the straits open. And it seems that what has changed their plans is just a dozen sea mines. So this is extraordinary lack of preparedness on the American side. So this is why they had to do it. So first of all, see these huge increases in prices that they're getting in the United States. It's far less than the United Kingdom. Look, here's the United Kingdom price, just a few pence in the UK. But if you go to the United States, it's a very big increase in prices. These are the dollars per gallon. If you've got, say, $3 going up quite a lot, look from there to there, how much it's gone up. Now, the Americans are very sensitive to the price of gasoline because they travel such long distances. And so presidents are also very sensitive because that's what their public cares about, and because it's a democracy. So that's why Trump had to act. He had to act quickly. And this is also a reason to end the war, because it's very difficult to remove the sea mines during wartime, and it's much easier in peace. And the longer that the war continues, the longer that they will have to release oil from the strategic oil reserves. Every extra week of the war means an extra week before they can clear the strait. So he's got a very strong incentive to end the war quickly. Because and just to explain, because the United States will have to buy up all these oil reserves again, fill up their oil reserves again once the war is over. So that's the situation, and this shows an extraordinary low level of preparedness on the part of the Americans, because they hadn't prepared for the possibility that the Iranians could deploy a dozen sea mines in the area. They hadn't even got any demining vessels there to deal with them. The United Kingdom sent its last demining vessel home in December last year. And there's very little in the area, and the United States hasn't brought anything to the area to help with demining. So even once the war is over, they'll have to get the ships in and things to try and get rid of the mines. So this suggests that when they were planning for the war, normally you have these blue teams and red teams. The blue team runs your side, the red team is the opposite side, and they would have wargamed it. It was a normal planning operation. They would wargame it all to the end, and there'd be one team playing Iran and one team playing United States. And then the Iranian team, they'd immediately think of sea mines. The United States had to clear sea mines at the end of the Gulf War, and it took 2 months to clear the sea mines at the head of a different part of the Persian Gulf. So this suggests that, extraordinary though it may seem, it sounds as if the United States team didn't do red-blue teaming of this operation before they started it. Because they would have recognized this, they would have had a plan for it, they would have targeted the mine-laying ships very early on, they would have targeted the stockpiles of sea mines. That would be a top priority. They would have had to come in on the land, going on the land to try and secure them or something. He'd have had some plan, and they did nothing. They only reacted after the first dozen sea mines were placed. So this is bound to lead to lots of, there'll be people looking at this and saying, what if you, there'll be very searching questions, as I put it there, as to why they didn't consider that. But from the point of view of the people who are scared by this war, then because of this complete failure of planning for sea mines, then the United States will have to stop the war. And the sooner the better. And Trump is, so if I just go to the end here, and I'll talk about some other things as well, but let's just keep going with this first. So, where we got, could it even end this week? Well, Trump originally said it's going to end soon, but not this week. He said that a couple of days ago, but recently he told Axios in a brief phone call that the war will end soon because there's practically nothing left to target. Now that's not true. There are lots of things the United States can target, but this is a thing that the president can say in preparation for ending the war. That's an excuse and the reason for ending it. Now, Trump keeps changing his message. I'm not saying that this is his final word on the matter, but when you combine what he said with the oil reserves release and the sea mines, then I wouldn't be surprised if he does end this war soon. So it's quite promising. Let's go and have a look at some of the other things here. This is the calculation. Normally, it carries 20 million barrels a day. There's Saudi Arabia has been able to restore 5 million barrels because Saudi Arabia, unlike the other countries on the Gulf, it's also got a shore on the Red Sea. And it's got a pipeline between the two shores as well. So it can pipe oil from the Persian Gulf to the Red Sea. And it also can export more oil from the Red Sea. So the Saudi Arabia is now exporting 5 million barrels that would otherwise go through the Hormuz Strait via the Red Sea. So it's only 50 million barrels a day that they have to find and the 400 million barrels is enough for 26 days. And the total of all the reserves held by governments directly and under government obligation is 1.8 billion barrels, and that's enough for 120 days of blockage. So all that calculation means that you do not need to worry that the oil price is going to go up. There's plenty of oil in the oil reserves. Even if it lasts for 120 days, there's no way that it's going to be blocked for 120 days. So please don't worry about that at all. Your oil prices are okay. And now, I just want to talk a little bit about a couple of other things, the new Supreme Leader statement and what Russia has said. So let's quickly go through. So I've done all this. This is just the UK Defence Minister saying, and let's pop to there and then we'll go on with the rest of it. So that's the UK Defence Minister, and he said this international imperative and sent to try and see this solved. Big steps like the record release of reserve oil helps, but don't solve the problem. Demining any waters is extremely difficult, and therefore and they have some demining autonomous regions in place. Likely to be most quickly sorted, and straits are most likely to be quickly reopened by de-escalation of the conflict, and by a greater stabilisation and confidence in the region, and by all these nations that want to see the statues reopened being willing to work together. I think that means straits reopened anyway. So that's just our UK Defence Minister saying the same thing, that the war has to, that the easiest, quickest way to open the straits is to end the war, because you just can't demine it easily in more time. And I just want to say, and also there's this bit that Iran actually has lots of ways that it could deploy more mines once it sees what the effect of it is. It can, have I got it there? there's I've got it there somewhere. Anyway, there's they've actually got ways that they can actually fire mines into the sea using rockets, and they have lots of small, fast ships that are and unmanned ships, very small ones that can go zooming out and drop a mine. So they can easily. There are lots of things they can do that could put more mines in there if they do try to start demining them, as well as attacking the demining vessels. So that doesn't seem very practical. Now, let's look at these other things. First of all, I want to talk about what Putin said. So he had this about, we offer you unwavering support. No, this is what he actually said. That's my satire. So when you get this flowery diplomatic language, if you said something like, we offer you unwavering support from the depth of our hearts out of eternal friendship, and we affirm the unity of our countries for all eternity. When a diplomat says something like that, then it means we're only going to help you in words. Because when it's much more practical, they say, oh, this is reaffirming our friendship and so on, but they don't go into all this flowery language about how it's for eternity and all that. So once you get diplomats saying that, then you know, oh, well, this is just words. They're not actually going to do anything except more words. And so first of all, on May 6, 2025, they affirmed their commitments. That was the president of Iran and Vladimir Putin. And then the Monde says, and this talking recently, March the 3, yes, all that bit. First, it talks about the powerlessness of Russia, that he couldn't, he hasn't been able to offer anything except verbal support. Verbal support is all Vladimir Putin's been able to offer his allies. Syria's Bashar al-Assad, Venezuela's Nicolas Maduro, and now Iran's al-Khamenei. And then he talks about his flowery language. And he says that in Syria and Venezuela, and through loss of influence in resolving conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan, where Russia just withdrew from its capabilities to protect Armenia, it didn't try to protect them anymore. It's just proven incapable of protecting its partners and influencing the outcomes. And it's got to the point where Trump just pays no attention to Russia anymore, because Russia's not going to be able to do anything. And the most that Russia can do is support the IRGC to help them with equipment that they can use to oppress their population. That's about all Russia can do in Iran. That's what Le Monde was saying. So now here's this flowery language. Please accept my deepest condolences. His outstanding statement made enormous personal contribution to the development of friendly ties and raising it to the level of a comprehensive strategic partnership. My most sincere sympathy and support, and so on. One thing he doesn't do is say, and this is what we'll do to help you. So it's all that flowery language. And then this is another one. I'll reaffirm our unwavering support. It says reaffirm. That makes it clear that they're not offering anything new. And Russia has been and will be a reliable partner. There has been and will be again means we're not offering anything new. We're just offering you words. And he says, your activity at this high post will undoubtedly require great courage and self-sacrifice. In other words, you're on your own. We're not going to do anything to help you. So, and there's nothing Russia or China can do, and you can see that. It's not even reading between the lines, it's right on the surface. There's nothing that Russia's going to do except more flowery words. So now I'm going to talk, this is last little bit now, is about Mojtaba Khamenei's and his statement about revenge. Now this, I'll check the news after I've done this, but I bet the news is not running this very accurately. So this is expected. So this is the Iranian system of retributive justice, which most countries are completely unfamiliar with. Most journalists are writing about this, apart from those who are expert on Iran, then they just don't have a clue about this. So the way this is that the Israelis assassinated Muchaba's father at the very moment when he had just approved a peace deal which would have given you a promise that would meant that Iran had no possibility of developing a nuke ever. There was no sunset clause like the Iranian deal. It was totally impossible. According to this deal, Iran would not have any stockpiles and would not be able to build any stockpiles of enriched uranium whatsoever, just as enough as it needed for its immediate needs. And they were going to work out the technical details on the Monday of this deal, and the Americans assassinated the Ayatollah who had just given his approval to this deal just before they were about to, and they never told the Ayatollah that they rejected his deal. So Muchaba's father was killed in peacetime, at the time when he didn't know that he was at war, and when, as far as he knew, the Americans were considering this deal. So in the Iranian system, they have a system of retributive justice. It wasn't the Americans. The Americans did not kill his father. The Israelis killed his father during the American negotiations. So according to the Iranian system of retributive justice, Mojtaba Khomeini has the right to require the execution of the killers of his father. Not only does he have the right, that's the default. They expect him to, the default is that the killers of his father should be executed. And in their legal system. And then Mojtaba can set that aside in two ways. He can ask for blood money, ask the Israelis to pay for the death of his father. That's never going to happen. Or he can legally forgive them. Doesn't mean he has any forgiveness from his heart. It's a purely legal concept. And so this is something that he's likely to do eventually. And it can also be set aside by the state in the interest of the state. That means that even though he personally wants to do it, the state is setting it aside and it's not going to take part in trying to make this happen. So that's the rather unusual Iranian system of justice. And so with that background, for political reasons, Mojtaba has to promise revenge. Unless he can ask for blood money, that's never going to happen. He can call for revenge, or he can forgive the Israelis. Well, at this point, he is certainly not going to forgive the Israelis at this point. He may well have a plan to do that in the future, but he's not going to do that right now. So he has to call for revenge. So this was expected. He has to, for political reasons. He would be considered very, just like grovelling to the Israelis if he didn't call for revenge, according to the way that the Iranians think about it. So this means nothing about what's going to happen longer term. It's just what he had to do. Any supreme leader would say it, no matter how moderate they are. So it's not about retaliation or targeting civilians. It's about retributive justice. So it's about the killers of his father and the killers of the other people in high command in the Iranian system of government and military. And it's not about revenge for all time. It can be set aside, but he would not say that right now. Mediators would help guide Iran and US to a situation where in the future Iran can set aside its demand for revenge on the killers. So this is the quote. So that helps. So I hope that helps you to understand the situation here. And you can expect this to not be reported properly. Hardly anyone, except those who are experienced journalists who know about the Iranian system, know Iran inside out, those report this correctly. Other journalists don't. And so I go to, like Iran International reports it very well. They are Iranians in exile in London, and they write about their country, and they understand it very well. So there's a bit of a curious thing. So when Machaba, he hasn't done a video yet, and they released a statement by him, but this statement was quite a curious one, because the statement where he's talked about the revenge, because he says, the servant of yours, Machaba Khamenei, learned about the outcome of the vote of the esteemed assembly of experts at the same time as you and through Islamic Republic of Iran. In other words, he said in this statement that he heard about his own election to supreme leader on TV. Now that doesn't make sense. If he was conscious at the time, because previously the two previous clerics who were appointed as supreme leader, they both rejected it. They both, where is it here? Both have declined the position. So the Assembly of Experts nominated two previous clerics and declined their position, which shows that they talked to the cleric and asked, do you want to take this job, before they announce it. So this suggests maybe he was in a coma and has just woken up from it. Or, of course, he's in a coma still, and they're just doing a false message in his name. I think perhaps more likely he was in a coma when they elected him, and has consented to it now that he's woken up. Anyway, so that's all I wanted to talk about. Just a bit over 20 minutes. So could it even end this week? And as I said, yes, possibly it can. And then I just want to talk, and I'll do this as a separate video, why Trump can stop the war at any Iran war at any time. The important thing to understand there, I'll just say, I'll outline that just very quickly right now. So then I'll close this video, maybe about 25 minutes. So, Trump, the reason is that the United States and Israel, as I just explained earlier, they started this war. And they attacked Iran suddenly at a time when Iran was in the middle of negotiation and proposing peace. And every day the Iranians are being hit by more and more of the US bombs, and the Americans and their Arabic neighbours are able to shoot down almost all of the drones and missiles that Iran fires at them. Iran is doing virtually no significant damage to the military capabilities of its neighbours. And the United States and Israel is doing huge damage to the military capabilities of Iran. So if the United States, it's not likely to end with a ceasefire, because that would require an agreement. And Machaba would be just too humiliating for Machaba to make a ceasefire agreement with the attackers as if it was Iran that had done something wrong. So the way it's going to end likely is that the United States will just stop attacking Iran, and then make it clear to Iran that if Iran continues the war, the United States will resume the attacks. And then at that point, Iran will stop the war from its side. So I'll have a separate video I can do about all that. That was how the 12-day war ended. The United States stopped the attacks, and then Iran said, we're not entering into a ceasefire, but we agree to stop attacking you if you stop attacking us, and then we will reconsider the military situation over the longer term after that. So that's how the war can end. Trump could just say, we're going to stop, and then Iran will stop, because it's not going to benefit them at all to keep going once the United States has stopped. And then Iran will reserve the option to resume at any time in the future. It won't be a formal ceasefire, and then you get the mediators, and the mediators will try and get the two to talk to each other in some way or other, to try to get to a point where they can get back to something resembling the deal that they had before the war started, which both sides still want. I think there's no doubt that both Iran and the United States want that deal. It's about how to get from here to there. And the United States wants lots of extra things, like Iran to keep its numbers of missiles low and stop funding its proxies in the area. And in that previous deal, when Iran's position, it didn't reject those requests either. When the United States, just before the United States attacked Iran, they said, we want to sort out the nuclear weapons thing first. And they said, look, these other things about proxies and about our missiles, we need to talk that over a larger group of countries. We need to involve all the Arab states in the area and not just the United States and Israel. So that was their objection to the United States on those points. So if they go back to negotiation, they'll agree to the nuclear arms deal if they can get back to that position they were in before the war started. And then they would not agree to the proxies or the missile limits, but they would agree to start a process of negotiation with the Arab neighbours also involved. And then they would likely agree to them. So that was a process that was already there before the war started. And it's about trying to get back to that point. With, of course, Iran even more degraded and Iran even more aware that things like the Chinese air defences didn't help at all, and that there's nothing they can do to stop the United States attacking again. So luckily in the end, this might even lead to a better deal for the region in terms of Iran having to agree to more compromises, but it's probably quite a few weeks down the road before we can get to anything like that. So anyway, that's the end of this video now, 27 minutes. Look at the link to the video description if you find this on YouTube, and I will link to the article at the bottom.